Part 50. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 496. Yanj calmly returned with his mobile phone. My family used to have a dog named Wonke. My mother wanted to buy it as a companion. They often worked overtime, so sometimes I prepared food for Wonke. Wonke was poisoned by food after going to the hospital twice. My mother gave away her wealth to someone else's house. My dad said that the dishes I made could poison people, but I ate pretty well, but they didn't allow me to cook. Liche. Are they a natural pair? His wife who got into the kitchen and got the kitchen must be jealous of God because he was beautiful when he was reborn, so he exploited the cooking skills. What a sad thing. It seems that I can't eat my wife's meal later. However, in fact, they can learn cooking together and progress together. Well, the picture is very harmonious when you think about it. After eating, Liche sent Yanj back. He sent her home almost every day. It was already a habit. Unexpectedly, Father Li and Mother bought a bunch of incense on the night street outside the district and ate it. At a glance, they saw their daughter carried by a boy. Li's father Li's mother was Ginger. They didn't yell at the time. While eating a bunch of strings, they followed Yanj and Liche. After entering the community, Liche was walking with Yanji. Yanji could not speak, so Liche was talking all the way. He talked about cooking and wall painting, as well as his own painting of basketball. It's been torrential all the way. When he went downstairs to the unit, Liche wanted to reach out and help her to slap her hair behind her ears. Li's father suddenly appeared and opened Liche's hand. The mother Li, who was shouting for kebabs, also appeared, pulling her daughter behind her. Liche. Is this the future husband? I met in advance and didn't take any gifts. Father Li, what happened to you and my daughter? With a serious face on his face, Liche almost surrendered with both hands. Mother Li was relatively calm. What is this? Walk around. If there is anything to go upstairs. The young man brought my daughter back tired. Just go upstairs and have some water to rest. Liche, it seems a little bad that he refuses now. Upstairs, Li's father questioned Liche about 360 degrees without any dead ends. Of course, I also asked Liche very sternly about what happened to her daughter. Yanj was pulled into the room by Li's mother, apparently tortured. This is also recorded separately. Liche felt that he could also use this trick on his children in the future. During the period, Father Li also opened his mobile phone and looked at it. It was sent by Mother Li in the room, confirming that her daughter did not do anything extraordinary. Father Li was relieved, so when he looked at Liche again, he and Yanyu were a lot more attractive. Although you are already adults, with your own opinions, no one can stop free love, but as a person, especially I am Huan's father, I still want to warn you that you and Huan are in love, but I do not support it. There is no objection, but if you dare to have a relationship with Huan at the age of Huan, I, as a father, will ruin you if you work hard. Liche, is this violent Xiaobeiwa like her dad? He nodded and immediately promised in general, Uncle, rest assured, Huan and I have really reached the day when they have a relationship. It must be when we get married. For the first time, I thought of getting married in my first love, but his father never agreed. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 497. The first love was killed by a fateful existence. The young man still wanted to get married. It was simply horrible. Father Li had a bad nose in his heart, but his face was still serious and ruthless, and he beat Liche again. Then he took the unexpected guest. The children were sent away. As soon as Liche left, Father Li felt the cold sweat that did not exist on his forehead, and went to the bathroom to ease his trembling emotions. Hema, he is a good man, let alone lose his temper to his wife. Even outsiders have never lost his temper. The threatening utterances that he just made have sweated his palms. When the door rang, Mother Li also stepped out of Yan's room and asked her father, "Leave." Although Li's father was still trembling with hindsight, in front of Li's mother, his face was slumped subconsciously. Well, the little bunny, even delusional about my family Huan, really wanted to beat him. Mother Li sighed, "What he does, there are many boys who like Huan, but there is only one that Huan sees. You warn him not to do too much to Huan. Their age is too young. If there is anything, it is our family Huan who suffers, but if they can go to the end safely, it is also good. This guy looks good, and it is also good for our family Huan. Father Li glared resentfully at Mother Li. "There are more men who look good, and they look practical and useful, only like me." Mother Li struck him in the chest. "Come on, if you don't have a good skin, you thought I would marry you. You rush to bed early, your face will soon become long, and there will be wrinkles if you sleep later. Acne, how ugly it will be." Father Li, not opening a forest. In order to show that he was not disabled, Father Li tortured his wife tonight. The old wife, after the toss, is to talk about his daughter in the bed. Although the daughter and the guy repeatedly promised not to do that kind of thing before getting married, the old couple was still worried. The daughter of Aunt Zhang's house in the next building was in love with her early pregnancy. She was pregnant before going to high school. The little princess holding her in her hand was ruined by others, so angry that Zhang's mouth wanted to work hard with that boy. When he heard his father's words, he was scared to run away with the boy, and he couldn't go to school. The old couple were more than 10 years old. "After I found my daughter, I forced her to go to the hospital to give birth. I didn't know what was going on now. Hey. My daughter is too old, I really worry about it. I am afraid that I may have rebellious thoughts, but I am afraid that the tube may be loose, and I am afraid of learning badly. Don't think about it." Father Li was also very worried in his heart, but still comforted his wife. "We are very sensible and won't do that kind of thing." Speaking of being sensible, the Zhang family's child is more sensible, and he has learned well since he was a child. He never has to worry about his parents. Ugh. The daughters are so fickle, and maybe one day they will change from a good girl to a former enemy. Father Li and Mother turned over and over and did not sleep well all night. Li Che didn't sleep well either. The future father-in-law is so fierce. He is a little scared. Although he wants to retreat, he thinks of the tender little white flower, and he is full of resentment. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 498. However, Li Che was comforting himself. In the future, he would have to live with his wife. In the future, his father-in-law should not hinder him. He was lying on the bed, glaring at the paintings of small white flowers on the opposite wall, especially the little girl sitting by the river beach. He still wanted to marry him, and the thought of not marrying him made him very weak. Yan Ji does not know the tangles of Li and Li's mother, nor does Li Che define her to the level of his future wife. Their class recently organized an extracurricular activity, and the people in one class went to another city under the arrangement of the teacher. When she returned to school, Li Che played basketball with other schools and was not in school. There is a gap between the two people's schedules. Even when chatting online, they can't get the time together. Li Che was worried about her little white flower all the time. He was afraid that he would be picked away by others if he didn't pay attention. So whenever he had time, he was sending a message to Yanj, and he really wanted to spend all his rest time on his mobile phone. It will be the finals in 2 days. Huan, do you have time? Would you like to see my finals? Yanj really had something to do that day. Recently, their class was intensive, and the teacher took the outside work for them. She didn't even have time to draw comics. Not to mention taking the time to watch Li Che's basketball. Knowing that the song would not go, Li Che felt that his whole world was down. But thinking again, she was so busy that he really couldn't force her to ask her. After all, this little white flower barely came to see basketball every time, and all the time she bowed her head and drew pictures, and he was not completely fascinated by his charm on the basketball court. The confession on the basketball court must be impossible. One can't make a song, and the other reminds Li of his fierce behavior. Li Che was afraid that his behavior would stimulate his future father-in-law. In case his father-in-law made the fence stronger as a result, he would lose some money. Anyway, she doesn't have to come. He won the trophy at that time, and he took it back and showed it to her. She likes glittering things, and the trophy is so bright, she will love it. On the day of Li Che's match, Yan Ji set a time to remind himself. He also cheered on Li Che. But that day, she sent him countless messages, and he did not reply to her. Not only that, when Yanj called in the evening, it was still unanswered. At first she thought he was busy, and he would have to eat with the coach and teammates after playing the ball. He was so busy that even if she saw her phone, there was no time to talk to her. But Li Che is so famous. On the next day, Yanj heard from his classmates that he had a car accident before the start of the game. The classmates asked her that Li Che was not badly injured. Car accident? He never told her. He didn't contact her, not because he was busy, but because of a car accident. There are already posts on the campus forum about this, and several posts. Yan Ji looked at the past, but there was no news about his condition after the car accident. She called him and finally, his cell phone was already off. Yan Ji and his teacher took another half-day off and tried to find someone in the hospital where he lived. Many female students went to the hospital to find him, and the doctor told her impatiently that she had been transferred as early as last night. They did not know exactly where they went to the hospital. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 499. Yanj went to the teacher and classmates with Li Che. This time, because of Li Che's car accident, it hit everyone hard. Even in the first place, they were very confident to win, but in the end, because Li Che was absent, they only got the second. Taking second place did not make them feel the most sad, but what made them frustrated was that Li Che had a serious car accident. When they visited after the race, people were still in the operating room to rescue them, and they couldn't see them at all. Because Yanj was Li Che's girlfriend, everyone told Li Ji about Yan Ji. At that time, the teammates were crossing the road together. Li Che was hit by a car in order to save an old man who was walking very slowly and was about to be hit by a drunk guy. Although he was rushed to the hospital in time, Li Che's situation was not very good at all. Some of his teammates were still there, but later, Li Che's relatives came. Li Che was picked up directly. Li Che's family seemed to be richer. They did not know which hospital Li Che's family had transferred to. The singer had a phone call from Li Che's parents, which was in the memory of the host. Not only that, she knew where Li Che's grandparents lived. So after searching all the hospitals in the city and not finding Li Che, Yan Ji went to the grandparents' home. Grandpa Li Che and Grandma were not at home, and only the servants were there. Although Yanj indicated that she was Li Che's classmate, she just wanted to ask Li Che's condition, but the doorman kept shaking her head and didn't tell her. Li Che, where was he sent? How is his condition now? Yanj was impatient. The wish of her host this time was to hope that Li Che would have a smooth life, which is good. People have been hit now. Yan Ji had to contact the chicken. Which hospital is that guy in now? Don't you say you don't know. Chicken, I know, but why should I tell you? This would not only shielded its voice, but also recently keen on falling in love, not even willing to chat with it? This guy is rosy in love and moisturized every day. Where can I understand the sadness and sorrow of an empty nest adult? Yanj thinks that the chick can speak to her with such a small proud voice, which shows that the powerful person has no life threatening for the time being. Oh, Yanj didn't plan to ask any more. Now I see ANT help changing my chickens. Hey, what do you want from me? What kind of attitude is this? Come and call, grandfather and grandfather, I'll tell you. Words, Grandpa Beast. There wasn't any entanglement, and it was very pleasurable to call the exit. This is not the same as imagined. The chicken was a little unhappy. Sour her, it seems that the mighty one has become your true love, you are willing to even be a grandson for this guy. Words, I'm not for him. I respect the elderly. I call you pitiful because of your pity. Don't talk about being your grandson or your daughter. Would you like me to call your father or mother again? Just call it, I didn't lose anything, just be happy. Chicken, and what does it mean to respect the elderly? What does this mean? Obviously it wants this piece of wood to eat crickets, how come the other way around? Chicken, how do I think you're satirizing me? Yan Song, it's hard for you to hear. It's such a naive to be a 10,000-year-old bird. Chicken. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 500. The chicken decided not to take care of the stinky wood anymore. Where did the bald hair go? The chicks launched a unilateral and vocal Cold War. What surprised him, however, was that the wood apparently didn't ask for it anymore. Hemp eggs, when you're together, you can't be better with the powerful ones. You can't sleep without a kiss. Now there is something wrong with the powerful ones. Why isn't this guy worried at all? The chicken was so heartbroken that he vented all his anger on Zhu Wei's body. 9 tails without a hair, he vowed to find a place in the chicken, but now, no matter how he plays, he can't win the chicken. During this period of playing mahjong, Zhu Wei is almost going into flames. His eyes are red and he has been staring at mahjong. But even so, no bird is used. Pushing mahjong, the chicken said, it's boring to win if you don't play anymore. His eyes turned and he asked Zhu Wei simply, why do you say wood is not anxious for men? Zhu Wei wanted to answer, the two-legged toad is not easy to find. There are too many men with 3 legs. The man who has been hit by a car is also a question of whether his function has been damaged. She should be anxious about this man hanging in her heart. I lost it and found it again. The chicken stared at Ninetail with a mentally retarded look. Zhu Wei didn't think she had any problem in answering this woman is so cruel, even if the man isn't dead, she won't be able to see the man again. After all, this woman is the one who can surrender even swallowing the beast. He thought he had played the card with the chicken for such a long time, and he was considered to have brotherhood, so he said the bottom of his heart, and as soon as the words fell, his head was slapped by the chicken, would you know what the hell? Ninetail. Of course, he wouldn't be beaten in vain. It happened that Mao had lost his hair recently and was very anxious, so he immediately got into a fight with the chickens. The 2 birds/beasts who hit in the space of the fans were called difficult. Minute. Yanj is unaware of this. Recently at school, many students were asking her about Li Chei's condition and learned that she didn't even know about Li Chei's news. Everyone's expression was weird. I think she's Li Chei's girlfriend, so she doesn't even know about it. These people are talking privately, and Yan Ji has unilaterally abandoned Li Chei. Because of that, Yanj was blocked by the girls several times, but she didn't care about it. She always did not like to explain, and when she could do it, she would never move her mouth to provoke her, all slapped by her. It was Father Li and Mother Li, who found out that his daughter hadn't been with the boy recently, and guessed that it should be a breakup. At the same time, she felt relieved and worried about whether she should take a chance to release her daughter. However, before such a time, a painting by Yanj won another prize, so the family celebrated it once. Yanj also proposed to drop out at this time. The reason she gave to Father Lee and Mother Lee was, "I want more time to draw comics, and I don't want to go to school to waste time." Nowadays, college students go around, and if their daughters can't even graduate from college, then they say that the subject must be discriminated against. Father Lee and Mother Lee were very distressed. They privately sought the teacher from the school to understand the situation, for fear that someone in the school would bully their own daughter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After My Death, the Villain Blackened Again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 501. The best students want to drop out of school, and even the teacher can't understand it. The teacher still wants to call the parents. I didn't expect the parents to come, so I talked together for an afternoon and couldn't figure out the reason for the dropout. Instead, the teacher asked Lee's father, Lee's mother, is it because of her boyfriend's accident? Her boyfriend's car accident probably hurt her too much, and I also advised her. I guess I can't even drive it. Otherwise, you will be doing it when you go back, thought work. Lee and Lee did not expect this to happen. They could not wait for a moment. They found Yanj for a long time and talked about it. I also took various children in the community as examples, and finally came to a conclusion, because early delays in studying were really irrational, and they hoped that the words could be considered seriously. Yanj sighed and waited for Lee and Lee to finish telling Lee and Lee to Lee's mother about the dangerous things she encountered in the alley that day and Lee Che's hero saving the beauty. Finally I typed, I didn't have an early or no love relationship with him, either as you think, or because he picked me up when I was in school. Last time without him, I didn't know what would happen to him. He is now in a car accident and the life or death is unknown. I think I need to see him. Yanji gave his father's bank card and the manuscript fees received by his comics to his father and mother. I don't want to go to school, not to drop out of school for early love, mainly because I think I can't learn anything at school. I want to specialize in comics, so after planning to see him, I will enroll in some classes to learn some new things I need. Yanji even gave his father and mother a look at his schedule. Lee father, Lee mother. I always feel that my daughter looks very powerful. She even made money with paintings, and she must go and read her daughter's masterpieces at night. Probably the words were very organized, and Lee were persuaded. However, they had a request. When Yanj went to visit Lee Che, they also wanted to follow along. How could they be the ones who saved their own daughter in the first place? The chicken babbled for so long, and finally couldn't keep it up, so on a dark night, Yu said to her sleeping words, Lee Che is in Beijing. His condition is not good at all, and the whole person is depressed. Lee and Lee wanted to take him abroad for better treatment, but he was reluctant to go, and he was therefore unwilling to receive further treatment. I thought Yanj was sleeping soundly, but I thought it was a dream. As a result, Yanj said lazily, oh, I see, thank you. Although the wood called his grandfather and thanked him, it still felt very hot. Huh, that's me, others don't necessarily tell you. Do your job and upgrade the system of the fans, and there are still many benefits to upgrading the system. Oh, said Yanji, then I'm asleep. Chicken. When she woke up, the song did not forget the words of the chicken. She finished the work here at the school, and then told Lee Che's affairs about Lee's father and his mother. He is in a bad mood now. You don't have to go all the time. Once you waste your time at work, you may not see him when you come and go. If you don't worry about me, one of you will follow me. Although her daughter's arrangement was very organized, she was always her own daughter, and her daughter couldn't speak. She hadn't traveled far since she was a child. Of course, Li and Li were uneasy, so after the discussion, Li and Li took the song with them. To Beijing, Mother Li stayed behind. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 502. After taking the train to Beijing for a day, the father and daughter first looked for the bus to the scheduled 7-day hotel and dropped off the salute. Then they went to the hospital where Li Che was. Li Che has now transferred to a relatively high-end private hospital. To see him, he still needs to make an appointment. The family members can only agree to see people. Otherwise, they will not be able to enter the inpatient building. For the first time, Yan Ji and Father Li had rested in the hotel for one night, then went to the hospital the next day. As soon as Father Li saw the hospital where Li Che lived, he guessed that Li Che's family should be much richer than his own. He wanted to persuade his daughter. This meant that they thought she was attached. But looking at his daughter's sincerity, he didn't say these disappointments. This man was considered to have rescued his daughter once. No matter what his family's attitude was, it was enough to see what was right. This time Yanj didn't go to the front desk. She asked Father Li to wait in the garden at the bottom of the building. In fact, they followed the others into the inpatient department. Credit cards are required on each floor of the inpatient department. Yanj doesn't have a card, so he can only wait for others to come and fool around. Fortunately, one of her girls, Sven Wen, was well behaved, and no one doubted her. On the floor where Li Che was located, before I could find the song, I heard the roaring sound that can be heard almost throughout the corridor. Don't worry about me and let me be quiet. Are you trying to make me die? Go out, get out. Get out of here, I'm going to be killed by you without being hit by a car, get out of here. I don't eat, get out. Yan Ji followed his voice to the ward. The maid from Li's family and the Shinji went out. As soon as she saw Yanj, she immediately said, "The little girl has gone to the wrong place." Yanj could not respond, she still walked towards the room. The stretched out his hand to stop the song and called, "Hey, hey, who are you, why are you so inexplicable, stand still, stand still." Just being reprimanded by Li Che, the was unhappy, and naturally she did not have a good look at Yanj. Another maid was busy to stop the song. Li Che was lying in the bedroom inside. Although he heard the sound of the outside, he didn't care, and instead covered his head with a quilt. Yanj was shoved, the lunch box in the maid's hand was broken, and most of the soup inside was poured on Yanj's arm. Yan Song couldn't scream, just a groan from the back of his throat. "You girl, why don't you talk? This bone soup is so hot. You, what on earth are you doing here, you? You can't break into this ward, what are you doing, you say something?" The maid was frightened, but when she saw Yanj, she had to rush in, only to hold her down. Hearing the words of the servant, Li Che was agitated. "Not talking girl." He knew that one. But she, why did she come here? He didn't believe it, but he shouted, "Let her in, let her in." As soon as the servant were stunned, Yanj rushed in, but rushed to the living room, and remembered what it was like. He turned to the and pointed to the soup on his arm and chest. The gesture was to wipe himself. Arm. It was very uncomfortable to accompany her. This is not a place where cats and dogs can come in, she didn't see it. However, the servant had some imagination, and I saw Yanj guess that she would not speak. She was afraid that Yanj would really know her own young master, so she took Yanj to the bathroom with her. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 503. The bone soup was so hot that Yanj's arms were hot. Fortunately, she wore a long sleeve, so after washing it with water, she wiped her clothes with a dry towel and dried the water stains on her clothes. Just went to Li Che's room. Li Che has been looking up at the door, gazing at the door. When Yanj really appeared at the door, he froze, and then shouted, "What are you doing here? You are so daring, how did you come so far? You." Before the words roared, the words of the song standing at the door shuddered, and tears flowed down. Liche. He had never seen him shed tears, and he was dumb for a moment. The little girl didn't have a voice, she kept twitching and wiped her tears with Bainan's hands when she was crying. Looks aggrieved. He wanted to get out of bed to comfort her and wipe her tears. But as soon as I moved, I remembered my legs and couldn't get out of bed. His eyes fell on the wet clothes of Yanji. Thinking of the maid's call, he said quickly, "Come here." The dry voice sounded terrible. The song did not pass, she was still crying on the doorframe, her face was covered with tears, and the crying was pitiful. Liche. His heart was almost hurt, and his voice softened immediately, "You come and see." The words still do not move. Liche could only raise his voice and called to the servants outside, "Mother Zhang, Huan has just been scalded by pork rib soup. You go to the nurse to get some scald medicine. By the way, do you need to go to this situation?" The doctor bandaged. Zhang Ma kept talking outside, "Okay, I didn't expect that the little girl was really someone she knew. It seems that the little girl Ling Shuiling is a dumb, and it is obvious that her young master has a good relationship with this dumb girl." When Zhang Ma ran downstairs, she still did not forget to call Grandma Li on the phone. Li Che listened to the sound of the door, and then beckoned again, "It was my fault just now, it shouldn't be you, you come over and see." Yan Ji then passed. Well, the little girl is quite temperament, and he still needs an apology to succeed. He rolled up her sleeves, and saw the swelling and redness of her arms. With a slight press, she seemed to be in pain and hiding. When I think of a girl and a person who runs to such a place, she won't say anything. Someone is patient to see that she is typing. If those people are impatient, they may be treated like today's nurses and servants. She was. She probably hasn't suffered such grievances since childhood. How come she came here all by herself? How did you get to this floor? If you think about it, you can't add more pain. Li Che didn't know that her voice was a little trembling. "Is it painful? Go to the doctor first to see and bandage it, but don't leave a scar." The words fell and the bell next to the bed rang, and the caregiver hurried to the door, "Master Li. You took her to see the doctor. Her skin is so tender, what if she gets scarred later?" Seeing the caregiver's face awkward, obviously unwilling to go, Li Che's face was cold. "Come here, help me sit in a chair." In front of Yanj, he shouted the wheelchair into a chair subconsciously. After speaking, I looked forward to the words, "Will you wait for me outside, will I go with you?" Yanj held his arm and shook her head. She typed on her mobile phone, "The arm is okay, don't get up. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again." Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 504. Red is so powerful, how can it be alright? Thinking that her legs today can't even move freely, she suffered this kind of suffering, and Li Che felt uncomfortable and depressed, but she was still patient with her courageous song, "Oh, go outside and wait for a while, just a moment after we have seen the doctor, I will buy you toffee, the one you like best." Yan Ji saw him stubborn, only to find the bedroom waiting. After a while, Li Che sat out on the chair, put a blanket on her leg, and she couldn't see what was happening to his leg. After going downstairs to the doctor, he took a few pills and Li Che returned to his room with Yan Ji. He signaled the song to open his own closet, "Your clothes are wet, and there are my clothes in them. You just dress them up, and by the way, apply some medicine to the hot areas under your clothes, and wait for the clothes to dry, you change it again." Yan Ji's face was as usual, but Li Che's ears were red when he said this. She wore his clothes, and all the clothes must have left her body fragrance. He knows the fragrance of her body. Yanj got up nicely and went to the bathroom. I didn't change my clothes, but used a hair dryer to blow my clothes almost dry, so I went out. Before going out, he did not forget to send a message to Father Li. Li Che saw that Yanj's clothes were almost dry, so she didn't ask why she wasn't wearing her clothes. He knocked on the bed rail, stretched her face and asked her seriously, "Why are you here?" Yanj grabbed an apple placed on a bedside table and cut it. He heard Li Che's words and motioned to cut off the apple before answering his words. Li Che didn't say anything. When she lowered her head and cut the apple, he looked at her without blinking. The stretched face gradually became tender. The eyelashes at the corners of her eyes were wet and there were tears, and the eyelashes fluttered from time to time. She looked weak and delicate. He really wanted to hold her in her arms for a lifetime, and never let her suffer from this. Bitter. But his fingers moved, he glanced at his leg position, and all those urges became despair. She cut apples very fast, and a bunch of apple peels didn't break. He shook his eyes ostentatiously, and she took all 2/2 of the apple. She took a bite and gave the other half to Li Che. Li Che took the apple and learned that she also took a bite. The apple was sweet and crunchy. He saw her smile and frown, and her heart was sour at once. "My dad came with me. He's waiting for me downstairs. I'm not alone. Don't worry." He looked at the words she typed, nodded, and wanted to speak without knowing what to say. Waiting for apple to be silent by him, even the half of the fruit core was pierced into his mouth. He stared at Shang Yan's surprise and said softly, "I'll help you book the plane tonight. You go back, your father wants you have to go to work and go to school. You can't delay." Her eyes were wide open, and her face was startled and puzzled. This little look was like a frightened fawn. He wanted to reach out and touch her head, but he reached up and slowly dropped back. Huan," he smiled and said to her, "You have to study hard and strive to be a great painter in the future. You said you wanted to paint for me. I haven't seen it yet." Yanj asked him, "Did you say that?" Li Che. "Yes, in order to draw me, I sat in the first row of the basketball court auditorium every day to see me. After my death, the villain blackened again." Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 505. Word song typing. "Oh, I didn't want to paint you. The dolls hanging above your pitch are pretty good. I'm here to paint those dolls." Li Che, "No wonder those paintings are all animals." He thought it was a small white flower that shaped him, and he didn't paint him for a long time. Sad. Yan's song, "Have you not eaten yet?" Li Che just wanted to speak, and the words were typed again, "I haven't eaten yet, I am hungry, I don't have enough apples, what do you want to eat, let's take a single takeaway." Li Che realized that she was really careless, and forgot to ask her if she had eaten anything. He was busy calling Zhang Ma again, "Where is it? Did you go back? Make me something to eat?" Seeing Yan Ji with a look of astonishment, Li Che said, "My grandparents live here, and they will soon be able to deliver food." It didn't take long for Grandma Li to hear that there was a very beautiful little girl who came to see Li Che and personally took the remaining pork rib soup to the hospital. Grandma Li was very enthusiastic, and she seemed to be very shy. Li Che was afraid that her song would be embarrassing and she dared not eat it. So she set up a table on the bed and ate pork rib soup with Yanj. Grandma Li was sitting on the sofa aside and smiling at the song. Even Li Che was embarrassed to be stared at, and said to Grandma Li, "Grandma, Huan her dad is here too, and I have been waiting downstairs for a long time. Could you help me receive him, come all the way, he may not have eaten. Grandson has been in a car accident for so long." For the first time today, she spoke so normally. Grandma Li was very happy. She wanted to ask who Li Che was, and she was afraid that Li Che was angry. At this moment, when she heard that, she nodded. I left my father's phone number and went downstairs to find someone in person. Yanjit slowly. She has to eat a piece of meat for a long time, but it tastes delicious, as if the meat is delicious. Li Che watched the incense she ate and unknowingly ate a few more bones. After eating, he wiped his hands and helped Yanj wipe the oil on his mouth. Scrubbing and slowing down. He should no longer do such things. He shouldn't have touched her anymore and beat her up. So he quickly withdrew his hand, and mentioned the home thing to Yanj, you give me your ID number and your dad, and I will let you book tickets for you. Yanji blinked and typed on the phone, I dropped out of school and my dad took a week off. Today is the next day and it's still early. Li Che only saw the previous sentence, why don't you read? Your parents told you not to read and you didn't read? You are so young, why not read? You can't always stay at home. The more he talked and the more angry he was, he suddenly choked on the clear black and white eyes of Shang Yanj. The throat seemed to be blocked by something, and nothing could be said. He also wanted to ask her how he found it here, and why he dropped out of school because of him. But dare not ask. I dare not ask or no. She lowered her head and typed on the phone, my comic won the prize, and there is a small trophy, not as big as those trophies you have in your house, but I have a bonus. I used this money to apply for a training class in Beijing. I will go to class in 2 days. For 2 months, I want to find a house to live in. In the next 2 days, I may not have time to see you. La. Li Che asked what training course she was.